It is 1 o'clock, and we would love to welcome you to our January MTPD, Master Teacher Professional Development. Um, we are super excited this month to be welcoming Rebecca Way from GeauxTeach. Rebecca is a master teacher at Louisiana State University with the GeauxTeach program. She enjoys working with her alma mater, LSU, where she completed a Master's of Natural Science degree and an undergraduate GeauxTeach program with a major in mathematics. Before working as a master teacher, she taught high school math and computer science in a small town near Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And in 2018, she was awarded the Aspirations in Computing Louisiana Affiliate Educator Award, awarded to educators who play a pivotal role in encouraging 9th through 12th grade women to explore their interest in computing and technology. And today we're going to be learning about how your alumni, your students can apply PBI in STEM electives. So very excited to hear today's presentation. Rebecca, whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thanks for the introduction, and thank y'all for joining today. I'm sure you have a lot of exciting things going on in your own programs related to this topic. So I'm just going to share a little bit, and then there will be time at the end of the slides that it would be wonderful to hear some things that you guys are working on or that you have tried. So I'm going to open up the slides and share my screen. And it looks like Elizabeth has dropped a link in the chat. If you need to open them, there will be a moment where you'll interact with them at least once. All right, so here's my contact information if you need it later on. Just want to start us off with a quote to jumpstart the presentation. It's the essence of our humanity to create, to invent, to make our world better. And this is from Ted Dintersmith, who's the author of What Schools Could Be. He also worked on a documentary called Most Likely to Succeed, which we just started screening in our Step 1 classes as one of the things that we do in that class. Few things that I want to touch on today. First thing is teachers of the future. What are they going to look like? What competencies are they going to need? And then the second thing is in the realm of project-based learning, what does it look like to do that in STEM electives, and how are we, springboarding off of that? And then what has GeauxTeach updated in its curriculum and each of our courses? And then some time for questions and comments. Okay, so teachers of the future, when I tried to think of what words to put on the screen here, these sounded really dramatic to me, and like very, spacey, futuristic. But I mean this quite literally, like our teachers of tomorrow and of next year and of this next decade. I want you to think about what do you think that job might look like, or does look like, or could look like. And while you think about that, what competencies do teachers of the future need to possess? So here's your one interaction for the day, where you'll want the link to the slides. There's a link to a Jamboard, if you notice on the bottom right. If you can click there, and on that first Jamboard slide, add a sticky note. And if you can come up with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, just brain dump some competencies that you believe teachers of the future, of the next generation, of tomorrow. Great, these are wonderful. So I'm going to read what some of the ideas that I see. Ability to learn new technology. I saw that on here a couple of different times. Technology, everything. Programming, data analysis. They need in-depth content knowledge and practical understanding, connect to real-world relevance. Ability to adjust quickly to changes in students, technology, content. Use technology appropriately and engage in student learning. Choose content that is really relevant to students. Proficient use of technology. Critical consumers of information. Somebody over here said the ability to resist the status quo and keep inquiry as a major teaching methodology. Making assignments relevant to their students. tuned into student interests and futures, applications of technology, flexibility in a rapidly changing world, ability to make lessons as engaging, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat for our students. They can't learn in a traditional way anymore. Resist the status quo mentality. It's like we all, work for UTeach or something. Thinking of education as beyond the four walls of the classroom and how to best leverage that for learning and understand how to adapt a lesson to be culturally relevant to the students. Wow, these are some great ideas that we have here. Yeah, so this is right along the lines with, the thinking that we have at GeauxTeach and the needs that we need to address for preparing our teachers. Okay, I jumped back to the slides. Can everybody see my screen? Okay, just want to make sure I did that correctly. So, in GeauxTeach, in regards to preparing teachers for inquiry-based learning or project-based learning in their real first job as a teacher, I think some of the things that we're doing well is that teachers, our alumni, have strong teacher evaluations from their administration. I think that's tied to the fact that a lot of those evaluation tools, to score well, you have to have a student-centered classroom. And so inquiry-based learning helps prepare teachers for that. We know that student-teacher relationships are strong. That's evident in several of our alumni winning the New Teacher of the Year award at their schools and districts, and one of them going on to win it at a state level. And that award is really centered around student-teacher relationships. We're developing teacher leaders. Alumni are leading PD. They're moving on to roles as mentor teachers and master teachers. And they're prepared to implement PBL and inquiry-based learning. And they cite that they have a lot of fun doing it when they are in elective courses. And so of all of these things bulleted here, that's the one that I'm going to spend the most time talking about today. They get placed in jobs where they're teaching math, biology, chemistry, physics, they're teaching Algebra 1. And those are tied to a state exam. And sometimes all of the pressure of the assessment is coming up, adds to their stress and their ability to implement IBL or PBL in a way that they want to. But that the fun part of their day, or, the energizing part of their day, and the part that makes them learn how to do it better and want to apply it in those math and science core classes, is doing it in one of the CTE courses, so a STEM elective course, not tied to a state exam. So I want to share a specific, really, it's more than just a set of courses, but an entire initiative here at LSU in a separate center. So it's not in the GeauxTeach program, but this is something that is done in the LSU Kane Center. And this will probably be the best slide to show the three things that they're really working on right now. So they have created the LSU STEM pathways, and that has three components. So they worked on creating a pathway for K-12 students. So within the Louisiana high schools, there's a pathway for students to take a series of STEM electives that build a portfolio, and they can graduate with a certificate in one of those pathways. The Kane Center and the LSU STEM Pathways project is also designing the curriculum. So they designed quality STEM curriculum. And then thirdly, they're developing the teacher workforce. So they're training teachers to implement that curriculum. And I'm going to backtrack one slide. So this comes straight from their homepage of their website. The LSU Pathways STEM certification is a program designed for K-12 students in the Louisiana public school system to get hands-on training with STEM subjects. There are 4 pathways: biomedical sciences, computing, digital design and emergent media, and pre-engineering. So you may be familiar with some of these pathways. There are other curriculum providers out there that have similar pathways or packages, for students or for teachers. LSU partners with schools across the state to prepare teachers, students, and administrative staff for the curriculum. One of the things, let's see, their vision, I thought might be helpful to share as well, is to increase access and opportunity for all Louisiana students to take quality courses in STEM disciplines, to prepare students to seek a STEM degree in college or enter the workforce, having earned certifications in high-wage career sectors. So this is something in line with, the GeauxTeach mission as well. We want teachers to be providing this for K-12 students, to provide quality courses. So they define quality in these ways. So a lot of times in education, we think of quality of a course being the student outcomes in their achievement levels, right? So we measure it by how did they perform on an assessment? How are the students performing on the state test? Well, great, we've got a quality course because achievement levels are high. And so what I liked about this slide is that you can see there's two sides of it. So there's learning and achievement, which is important. The other side is interest and identity. So in a quality STEM course, students not only learn and achieve, but they leave interested in science, interested in math, interested in STEM, and they feel like they identify with it. They have an identity there that makes them want to go into the workforce or possibly pursue a career or, go to a college and pick a STEM major. So when, they have the 3 columns, one of the things that they're working on is developing teachers to teach courses that are at that quality. And so the teacher workforce that they're looking to build would be teachers that have STEM PCK, so STEM pedagogical content knowledge. So on one side, there's your STEM content knowledge, meaning the background knowledge that the teacher has for the STEM subject being taught. Then there's your pedagogical content knowledge, being able to teach that to someone and transfer content to students. And so the overlap between those two, STEM PCK, again, what you might be interested in noticing here is that STEM PCK is the overlap of those two, but also includes 21st century skills knowledge and context knowledge. So earlier when y'all mentioned what are the competencies that, that we want in our teachers that we prepare, that includes a lot of those things. Being able to respond to student needs and prepare students for 21st century skills, technology, all of those things are included here. So, I feel, and we feel that UTeach alumni, that GeauxTeach alumni are uniquely qualified to be part of this workforce, right? We know they're graduating with the content knowledge. And if they don't necessarily know a lot about robotics or engineering, they've got the math and science, they've got the rigorous content knowledge to be trained quickly for this type of, to teach a course like this. And then they also have the pedagogical content knowledge. So they know we have a course, instructional models, where they're learning a lot about project-based learning. So they're uniquely qualified to go right into the field and teach these types of courses. So a couple of years ago, what we decided to do is try to get our undergraduates trained in the summer to be a certified teacher for this particular set of courses. We put applications out there, and we're able to award scholarships and stipends for 4 GeauxTeach undergraduates to attend in the summer to get trained in one of those courses. So some of them did the Intro to Biomedical Pathways training. Another one did the Intro to STEM for middle school training. Another one did Intro to Engineering. So they they got to choose the one that was most interesting to them, and one that they felt, if they were going to go and get a job, they would want to have this certification. So here's where they were able to graduate from GeauxTeach not only a certified math teacher or certified science teacher, but already with a certification in Louisiana to teach one of these courses and use the LSU STEM Pathways curriculum. I want to stop for a second and see if anybody has any questions. I did also invite Vanessa Bigot from LSU STEM Pathways. And so if anyone has any questions for her or has any questions for me, I want to open up the floor. Okay. And if anything comes up, yes, I see Kendra has her hand up, but you're on mute.
I'm sorry. We have a snow day today, so we're all home and there's dogs and kids and all the things. So just have a question about this pathway. Is this a certification that you have to have a primary certification in your state first? Like you have to be math certified and then you can add this on to your teaching certificate? Okay, I do want to see more about the STEM Pathways. I see that was dropped in there. So I'm just curious about this because it's a state initiative. So you all are supporting and providing people for that, not just an additional thing because you're a UTeach school that wants to do this.
Yeah, so Vanessa, if you want to answer that first and then I can add. Yes.
Okay. So one of the first slides that Rebecca showed kind of had, the 3 pillars, and the first one was creating a pathway for all students. And so a lot of that work happened in conversations with the State Department by creating these courses where we said, there are a lot of course codes on the books here in Louisiana that have a course name, and that's about where it stops, right? And like, you could teach this class. There's not really a whole lot of oversight. They're old course codes that haven't been taken off the books. There's lots of reasons for it, and they're actually in the process of cleaning that up. But when we created these courses, we said, we're not just going to be a curriculum provider. We actually want to kind of monitor these courses and make sure that the fidelity of implementation is high enough that, we can certify that these kids are doing the coursework. And so part of that model was saying, okay, well, in order to teach the class, you have to come to our training. And so it is, it's a add-on certification in the sense that the state has supported us in saying that you can't teach this class unless you've been trained. But they don't actually get an official add-on onto their like state license. We are actually on the 3rd of 4 years of an EIR grant that we received from the US DOE to study how we could create micro-credentials for teachers in STEM that would potentially, if the results of our study show that it works, that they could actually get an official STEM add-on certification to their official teaching license, but that would be 3 to 5 years down the line. But a lot of states are going towards that because this world of STEM education is kind of the wild west. Like you can go to like a 1-day PD and then have to teach robotics for a whole year, or you could just say like walk into a classroom and someone's like, hey, we have these robots that we got through a grant, like teach a robotics class. Or you could go to like a 12-day 60-hour professional development, so there's just, it's kind of an unregulated situation at this point in a lot of states. And so the state has backed us up in requiring teachers to be trained, but it is not a formal certification. So the teachers would still need to have whatever certification they need to teach in the school. So if they're teaching math classes or science, like, because not many teachers are going to teach robotics all day. So they can come in with any state certification and then come to our trainings and teach these classes. So sorry, that was kind of a long answer to a short question, but I felt like the background was a little bit necessary.
Thanks, Vanessa. And yes, so the need for these teachers is growing. The work that the Kane Center is doing is phenomenal, and it's taking off, and it's growing. And so the partnership with GeauxTeach has been really exciting. And we hope to see that grow. Like, I don't know if you saw the number, but we just had 4 students who did it that summer. And we would love to see that grow. In these trainings, there could be a big learning curve if you're going to teach intro to robotics for the first time, or intro to engineering. And so the fact that you already have some math or even intro to computational thinking, maybe you have no prior experience with programming, but coming in with the math degree or the science degree and with experience in GeauxTeach, when they go through these trainings and they introduce the gold standard of PBL, that's familiar to you as a GeauxTeach alumni. Any other questions about these slides related to the LSU STEM pathways? All right, so I want to share some things that GeauxTeach, in addition to getting students able to graduate already certified, we did start to look at our GeauxTeach curriculum and the courses that we're teaching and try to get some vertical alignment in preparing teachers for this type of a teaching position. So one of the first things that we did, and there were other factors that contributed to this decision, but one of the things that we did was in step 1, we eliminated the elementary field experience. So they're not teaching elementary math and science lessons anymore, or going into the elementary schools. Their field experience in that class consists of school tours, and they teach, but they teach to their peers. So they'll teach lesson demos to one another. They get that teaching experience, but not in the K-12 classroom setting. And then the school tours each look a little bit different. So we have 4 school tours that they do in the semester. The first one is the screening of the Most Likely to Succeed documentary that I mentioned earlier. The majority of the documentary focuses on one school in particular, High Tech High, and so that we consider as like a school tour, but the documentary also has some other information that it contains. We do like a class field trip, basically, where we all go on a school tour together, and we set one of those up with a school that is teaching these pathways courses. So they're able to see implementation of project-based learning in action in our local community. What's interesting is it's really funny to see their reactions after we watched the documentary, the Most Likely to Succeed documentary. They are like, this is great, but this is like La La Land, can this really happen? There was nothing like this in my town. And then so for us to go to a local school and see this happening is really exciting, and it's fun to see their reactions to that. And we always have had, pockets of mentor teachers doing excellent things and doing wonderful things, but this is just on a bigger scale where we're able to see an entire school sometimes, or an entire team of teachers implementing project-based learning in the classrooms. And then in some cases that's trickling into their math and their science preps that they're teaching as well. The third school tour, they schedule on their own. They do an outside classroom observation like we traditionally did in step 1 before. Instead of placing them with a mentor, we give a recommended list of mentors and then also open it up for them to schedule their own. And they do that with their partner. And then the 4th school tour, we could do another field trip. I guess last year and the year before, trying to get back into schools after a couple of years of being out of them with COVID was hard. And so we did a virtual school tour for the 4th one. This semester, I'm not sure if we'll be able to do it in person or if it will be virtual again. But what's nice about that is now we have the recordings from those. And so we have, I just dropped them into iMovie and let it do its thing and uploaded those to YouTube. So I have some links to those school tours that we did. We had our students, we didn't want to take all the field experience out of step 1. We know that that's what gets the buy-in. That's what students like about GeauxTeach classes. They like meeting real students, teaching real students. If they're on the fence about pursuing a teaching certificate, it's usually experiences in the classroom that allow that to stick. And so we didn't want to eliminate that. We wanted them to have access to students. So to engage them in these school tours, we try to partner with one particular teacher at the school or a classroom at the school that we can ask questions to. So we will shoot them the questions ahead of time and they'll respond back to them so that our students in the step 1 class get to ask questions. We also, when we're touring the school, we know like we can't necessarily interrupt everyone, but when we go to that teacher, when we go to that teacher's class, they allow us to interview the students and ask them lots of questions that, you know, our candidates maybe might not have seen if they were just observing a class being taught. They get to actually talk to the students and talk about, you know, do you like this class setting? What do you like about working with others? Is it hard to work on a group project? How does that differ from some of the other classes you take? They get to engage with the class and ask the students some questions. So they interview the students, they interview the teachers, and then you can see that our students in this picture here are holding like a sheet of paper and a pencil. They actually walk through the school and have like a walkthrough checklist, and look for things almost as if like the school board is coming in to like see the school and check and see if kids are like rambunctious in the hallways. They just get to see the school day. And this particular school was really, really awesome. And they were like, we want you to see it all. Like, come at lunchtime, come see the crazy of like class changes and go to the teacher workroom. And they really let us see it all. And it was wonderful. And we had a good experience. So then the virtual tour, since we weren't able to all go there again in person, they wrote down a list of questions that they wanted me to ask. I went and I kind of just like held my phone as I walked around. Another time I brought a student with me and she video recorded, or we took turns video recording while the other asked questions. And we interviewed the teachers, we interviewed the students, we interviewed the principal while we walked around that school. But both of those school tours that we have done have been at schools that have some of these LSU STEM Pathways courses happening. In step 2, there were a couple of lesson planning specific topics from step 1 that we moved to step 2. We found that it was a little bit redundant anyways. And so we're able to hit all of that in step 2. And the rest of step 2 looks almost the same. They do middle school field experience with the observations and pairing with a mentor teacher and teaching lessons there. In instructional models, which is the project-based learning course, and made the most sense of where to connect some of these pieces of information. We actually meet for class at Liberty Magnet High School, and that school was really, when it was redone, was built around these pathways. And so each of their buildings are actually named after the 4 pathways. And so we have our classes there and we work with mentor teachers there and work to place our students. Sometimes they are placed with an algebra teacher, you know, or a pre-calculus teacher or a biology teacher. Other times we're able to place them with someone who's teaching, like at the hour that they're teaching one of these STEM Pathways courses. Yeah, I think, is instructional models the universal name for that course? Okay. So other schools have different names for that course, but that's our PBI course. Thanks, Sharon, for chiming in on that in the chat.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
You say they meet there, so your GeauxTeach instructor meets and then they sit with the high school teachers, or do the high school teachers actually just run the instructional models course, like working the students through education planning and lessons?
So that's a good question. And it has looked a couple of different ways over the past couple of years. I think the original plan was that, you know, LSU faculty members and LSU master teachers would be teaching the course, but we would meet there so that right after we got out of class, they could go to their mentor teacher's classroom, or during the class time, like as you said, some teachers could come in and they could interact there and they could do planning there. They could present some materials to our students. Right now, we're in a unique situation where the instructor for our course is, like, I don't know if the proper word is that she's adjunct at LSU, but she's a PhD candidate at LSU, and she's also a high school teacher at Liberty. So both.
Okay, so she's kind of serves as your master teacher for that in a sense.
We also have a master teacher with that course. So she's serving as the faculty instructor, but a bonus that she's a classroom teacher as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Rebecca, do you mind if I add to that just a little bit? The wonderful thing about this is that our students are actually able to immerse themselves into the high school. And so they get to see other things, like Rebecca was commenting that when they do school tours, you know, the principal would say, hey, come at lunchtime, all of this type of thing. And so for this particular course, the last time it was, we teach it every fall. Last time it was taught, I was the master teacher that worked with it, but it gives us access to our mentors immediately and to the students, all of that, that type of thing. But technically it's set up, if you look at it on paper, we have class on Monday and Wednesday, and then they're doing their observation on Friday, but there's so much more to it, being on campus and being able to interact, and they see what a school, by now, you know, because it is the PBI course, by now they are far enough along that they're looking at everything with teacher eyes instead of student eyes. And that's what's really great about this course.
Yes, thanks, Sharon. So actually in the picture on the side, I almost didn't see it because all of your faces are over there on that part of my screen. This is a screenshot of a video, but Victoria Hogan is in the bottom right corner. She's one of our alumni who has worked with the Pathways courses and worked with partnering to develop some of the curriculum for them. And so she presented at one of the classes for instructional models. And it was a really cool opportunity to show GeauxTeach students in a PBL class, a GeauxTeach alumni who's teaching project-based learning. And she's developing curriculum and implementing it for real. And so we've done a school tour also at the school that she teaches, and these are her students in the top right. Oh, Vanessa, what's the course after Intro to Engineering?
Principles of Engineering.
Yes, thank you. This is students from Principles of Engineering and working on one of their projects. So she came and she talked, and you can see on her slide that she's showing she talked about the gold standard for project-based learning and how she's using it and implementing it. She also teaches AP biology. She taught the regular biology 1 class. And so it was neat to hear her perspective on how she's doing different sorts of things in all of those classes, but what she likes about it and what some of her challenges are. And then finally, in our student teaching placements, a growing number of our mentor teachers are teaching one of these STEM courses. And so if they have an hour that they teach that course, then our student teachers who are placed there get to see it really in action. And they are able to co-teach with that mentor teacher and learn the curriculum and learn the practices of project-based learning. If they went to the summer training, and you know, that's the goal, is that the ones that have gone to the summer training get placed in student teaching placements with that course that they've been trained for, and they can dive even deeper into the teaching side of things. But that's been great as that population of mentor teachers begins to grow. We're able to partner with them a little bit better. Any questions about our course changes? I think that's the end of those.
I do have a question in the chat from Pam, and it's when do they take the instructional model / PBI course in the program?
They take that class semester 7. So the state of Louisiana actually recently passed a policy where student teaching needs to be a 1-year residency. GeauxTeach applied for an innovative model, which means that we had to put forth a lot of evidence to show that in other aspects of our program, there was enough field experience to meet the requirements of a 1-year residency without having to have their 7th and 8th semesters at LSU be full-time student teaching. Their content degrees just wouldn't allow for that. And it was going to really tear apart our program and the quality of our program. And so the innovative model, we had to do a lot of work to show that what we were already doing is working and is equivalent to that. So in the 7th semester, they're still taking a lot of their upper level physics, chemistry, math, biology courses, and then they enroll in instructional models that semester. So it's more of a 20%, 80%, I think are the numbers. Like their fall semester is 20% field, like teacher time, field time. And then the spring semester is like 80% of what a classroom teacher spends in the classroom is how often our students. So the traditional student teaching semester still happens in their 8th semester in the program. And this instructional models class is in their 7th semester, if that. Yes. So prior to the change, our step 1 students, they may have been like given lesson plans at first, and then maybe by the 3rd one, they were writing a lesson plan. But yes, at first they were either given lesson plans or writing lesson plans, and they were teaching lessons in elementary schools initially, I think with the exact like UTeach replication.
So when they're in the high school for the instructional models class, are they there for like an hour, Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Because ours is all on Friday, but it's like a 3-hour block. So
Okay.
it's just like an hour 3 times a week. Is that how it works?
It's an hour and a half on Mondays, an hour and a half on Wednesdays, and then on Fridays is when they're expected to do an observation, or they start like participating with their mentor's classroom, or they're teaching on that Friday. So almost every Friday they have a field experience component, but they meet for class on Monday, Wednesday for an hour and a half each for a 3-hour credit class.
Rebecca, can I ask a question? So how do you all, and I might miss this part, how do you all, where does this fit into your curriculum? Like, how is this different from project-based instruction, or did you feel a need to fill the void in this particular class in terms of the curriculum to what we did call research methods? How does this class stand out to you all as being something different and special?
So I might have to clarify, some things that I've said before for you, to help answer your question. So this class, we haven't changed very much. This is the traditional project-based learning course, from the replication of UTeach. What we were hoping to help and to change and to grow is that we've got alumni who are graduating with this course under their belt. They know what project-based learning is. They've written the unit plan, they've taught, they've done all of those experiences, but then they get into a teaching job and they're not able to use it. They've got barriers to implementing project-based learning in their schools. Sometimes, I'm sure that you all could name these for me, but the district has chosen a curriculum already, and it does not have project-based methods. Maybe they have to co-plan with another teacher at their school, and that teacher is not familiar or doesn't have the same teaching philosophy as them. They have pressure to have their students perform on the state exams, and so even though they'd like to go and spend this whole unit, we know that they could, right? We know that even in geometry, you can implement project-based learning and students can perform well on the state tests. But in your first year of teaching, you don't have time to write that curriculum if it's not available for you to implement it well. And so those are the challenges that, I mean, I can say that myself as a GeauxTeach alumni had those challenges in my first years of teaching. And then I know through our induction program where we have Zoom chats with students in their first 3 years of teaching, those are some of the things they share. Like, yes, I'm trying these things. When I do an inquiry lesson, it's fun, but these are the challenges I'm having. And so we are excited about a chance to get them in teaching jobs where they can implement project-based learning without some of those barriers.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in and speak for that. So in Louisiana, there's a huge push to take STEM. You know, there's different levels of STEM integration. And if you talk about like what is STEM, and you ask every person here, we will all have a different definition. And so, you know, STEM could be, you know, you take a robot and you have it map out a function within a math class, right? So a lot of people are like, well, that's great. That's STEM. You're using a robot to teach functions, right? But in Louisiana, in 2016, they made a big push to say like, that kind of STEM is great. And we highly encourage that. But we also want like dedicated STEM electives where the kids are just doing kind of that really immersive STEM. So instead of having a robot map an algebraic function and saying, well, now you can see this math in real life, you're going to say, okay, I need you to use that function to program your robot to get to an end goal. So it's more of like an open-ended problem where they're using the math and applying it to solve a real world problem. And so the STEM pathway courses exist outside of state testing. They exist outside of your traditional standard. Well, we align to standards, but we're not judged in the same way as like an end of course test type class. And so it gives us that freedom and that flexibility. The teachers don't have that pressure of like, oh my gosh, if I don't get to the end of this lesson by this date, then I can't start that and I'm not going to get through everything in time. And so there's a huge need in our schools for teachers who can teach those classes. And someone coming out of GeauxTeach has, you know, this one class in project-based learning and they've got 4 years of curriculum and, you know, but they still might not be quite prepared to tackle an entire year-long robotics course or biomed course or computer science course. Like that's intimidating, right? And so by giving them the foundational instructional methods and project-based learning class as part of their GeauxTeach curriculum and supplementing it with a summer program where they really learn, okay, let's take those project-based lessons that we learned and actually see it working within the framework of an existing curriculum that's like hand-holding, gives them everything they need. They're really able to apply those skills in that classroom. And then hopefully what they see is they gain that confidence in project-based learning by teaching their computer science class. And then they say, okay, maybe the second year, they're like, I see how I could bring this into my geometry class or my, you know, biology class or whatever the class is.
Thank you both for the clarification. And just one other question. Would you all imagine that for those of us that if we didn't have that state support, could you imagine that we could place a class like this as a part of research methods or some other course? What are your thoughts?
Well, as long as the high schools in your area are offering classes like robotics and like computer science, and as long as they're offering these classes, and it doesn't have to be like a full year, but I'm talking like an elective style class where it's not tied to a state test. As long as those are being offered in your high school, I see where there would be a need for your GeauxTeach students to be trained in how to run those classes. It makes them so much more employable. You know, they can go to their school and say like, hey, I can teach, you know, algebra 1, algebra 2, but I can also teach computer science. Guess what? They have a job offer the next day, you know? So it gives them that extra little boost of employability in these classes that are starting to pop up. So as long as the courses are being offered in your area, I think there would be a need to train your GeauxTeach students in those areas, is my take on that. Rebecca?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that completely. Yes, if there's any, a lot of states have funding for CTE courses, so these courses do exist, and we know math and science is already high needs. Like, we know our candidates are getting job placements, but burnout is a problem, and teacher retention is a problem, and the fact that teachers who are well trained for these types of courses enjoy teaching them, I think just can do good things for your alumni in their teaching positions, to have the opportunity to teach math and teach a STEM elective. I
mean, anecdotally, we have several teachers. They're not GeauxTeach alumni, but just like teachers who were in the classroom, who one of them taught physics, and he was like working really hard for AP physics, and he was so burnt out, and he was like ready to quit. And because he's now able to teach intro to engineering and principles of engineering, and these kind of low stakes, high engagement classes that still teach physics, like the picture here, they're doing a Rube Goldberg machine, so they have to learn about energy transfers, and so it's still got that science component. And he's like, your class literally, or being given the opportunity to take the trainings and offer these classes, helped me not quit my job. So that's another. So there's big perks for the teachers. You're no end of course testing. Your kids are throwing their backpacks in the corner, like ready to have fun. A lot of times they've chosen to be in your class, whereas they are not choosing to be in your Algebra 2 class or your geometry class. So from a teacher standpoint, we hear all the time just how excited they are. And so being able to give that to your upcoming graduates is just a little carrot for them as well, because who wants 6 geometry sections? If you can have 5 geometry sections in one kind of fun class, it can really make the difference. At least that's what I hear from a lot of the teachers that we teach. And I was in the classroom for 4 years as well, so I saw it with my teachers at my school.
Thank you.
These sound like amazing opportunities for students and alumni in Louisiana. Is there any opportunities for these curriculums to be shared outside of sort of LSU for those other programs who might be interested in doing sort of similar things with their students or their alumni?
I have 2 things in mind, and the second one I'm going to ask Vanessa to speak to. But the first is that, I asked myself that question too, coming into this presentation. I was wondering, is this too specific to what's happening at LSU? But, and going back to that book that I talked about at the very beginning of this, in reading, and the question that I asked at the beginning, in reading like What Schools Could Be by Ted Dintersmith, and thinking about what's changing in America and what's changing in our schools, and seeing that STEM electives are out there in all of these states, and CTE courses are out there in all of these states, and kind of like what Vanessa spoke to earlier, like if that's true, then can we find something, can we each find something that we can build into our UTeach program to prepare teachers for it? And I know that some schools are doing specific things, like you've added computer science to your UTeach program. For us, that's been a struggle. I don't know how that's going in other programs, but to do it big scale, to take computer science majors and make them teachers, has been a hard sell. And so in what ways can we take, people who are trained as math and science teachers and already know about PBL, and give them opportunities to teach in STEM electives courses? So I'm curious if other people here already are like, yes, I can think of a way to do that. But then also, Vanessa, if you have anything to
Yeah, I
share
mean, like if your area does Project Lead the Way, that's a similar, mentality curriculum. In Louisiana, we also have cyber.org, code.org. We've got, or NYSERC, I think NYSERC became code.org. So all these different STEM curriculum providers. I mean, LSU is the one that obviously we do here, but there's lots of other either national or homegrown, style STEM curriculum out there. And so whatever you have in your region, that would apply to it.
Yeah, for me, it was the UTeach CSP curriculum. My first year teaching AP Computer Science Principles, I went to their training and had a similar experience where half the people in the room had been computer programmers for a long time and needed to learn what is project-based instruction. And then other people were math teachers, science teachers who knew what project-based instruction is, but we had never coded anything in our lives and we needed to learn the computer science. And so that's one that I just typed in chat and listed here, the UTeach CSP. If you can find ways, I think at the time as a GeauxTeach alumni, it was even covered for me to attend. But maybe we could get in touch with UTeach Institute and find out is that still available for UTeach alumni to get trained in the UTeach CSP PBL curriculum? I think they've also added AP Computer Science A. They've built a PBL curriculum for that as well. But yeah, I mean, the problem for the first year teachers is, where's the curriculum? I know how to do this, but I don't have all these units. And so LSU STEM Pathways is the one that we're working with. There are others out there. I know, Vanessa, y'all said it's like a big project to reach outside of Louisiana, but it is possible. I don't know if.
Yeah. I mean, we currently are only within the state of Louisiana, but eventually we would want to go national. We have, a lot of buy-in from Louisiana because there's, all of these classes are career tech education classes, so they come with state funding. So that makes it really lucrative for schools to offer these classes. So if we were to expand outside the state of Louisiana, we would need to build some relationships with the state departments at those other places to see, because Project Lead the Way is a national version of what we do. And I'm sure that I know that they're counted as CTE classes in Louisiana, and I'm sure they're also counted as such in other states. And so that's really kind of the golden carrot for schools to be able to offer, because these classes are a little bit more expensive. They usually, because they have supplies. You can't build, Rube Goldberg machines and these really cool and robots. You can't do all that without a little bit of money. So, the key is really working with other states. I mean, we can offer the training to whoever wants it, and you can have access to the curriculum. But we have found that if there's no money tied to it, schools have a hard time implementing a robotics class if they're like, well, this costs $5,000 to start. I don't have any money. So we can absolutely do training for other schools. It just doesn't seem like the interest is there just because this other states aren't on board yet.
So yeah, Elizabeth, if you know that there is interest or need, then reach out. You can reach out to Vanessa or me if you have ideas. I know that doesn't leave much more time to find out what others are doing. But if you have ideas and you're wondering, hey, do you think this would work? You can shoot them my way. I'm not an expert in this at all. But I'm happy to collaborate and get more ideas from you to find out how we can do better at this too.